They were powerful, they were strange, and they left behind questions that echo through time. The Bible speaks of giants, men of renown, mighty beings who walked the earth in days long forgotten. They stood taller, stronger, and more terrifying than ordinary men. But here's the question almost no one asks. If there were giants, then who were their wives? Did these colossal beings walk into marriage with ordinary women? Or did they find partners among their own kind, female giants, whose stories were erased from history? Think about it. For every mighty warrior, there was someone who shared his life, who carried his children, who passed on his legacy. Yet when it comes to the giants, the pages of Scripture fall silent, almost as if someone wanted the world to forget. But silence often hides secrets. And today we break through that silence. We will journey into ancient writings, forgotten traditions, and unsettling possibilities to uncover the hidden truth about the wives of giants. Were they victims of a terrifying union, or were they something far more disturbing? This is not just a story about size and strength. It's a story about mystery, bloodlines, and a darkness that lingers at the edge of human history. And best believe, it's going to change the way you think about giants forever. But before we unlock this mystery together, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the Bible in Reflection, and ring the bell icon so you don't miss any of the revelations we uncover here. Because trust me, what we're about to explore is not taught in Sunday school. The story of the giants begins in one of the most puzzling passages in all of Scripture, Genesis 6. It says, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as wives, whomever they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days." Simple words, yet behind them lies one of the deepest mysteries of the ancient world. The sons of God, the daughters of men, and the birth of beings the Bible calls Nephilim, giants, men of renown, mighty and terrifying. But here's the riddle. These Nephilim didn't appear out of thin air. They were born, which means someone gave birth to them. And every birth has a mother. So who were the mothers of giants? Were they ordinary women? Fragile, mortal, caught in a union they never asked for? Or were they something else entirely? Women touched by the supernatural, reshaped into something inhuman. The text tells us that the sons of God took wives, not mistresses, not temporary partners, wives, which means there was covenant, there was union, and there was family, at least in the ancient sense of the word. But the Bible doesn't linger on these women. It's almost as though their identities were deliberately obscured, their voices silenced, their stories left untold. And yet, without them, the giants could not have existed. Think about the mystery this creates. The giants walked the earth, their presence so great that even after the flood, echoes of them remained. Israel would later tremble before the Anakim, the Rephaim, and the Zamzamim, tribes said to be descended from giants. But behind every giant stood a mother, a woman who bore the weight of something larger than life, literally. And here's where the questions grow darker. If the Nephilim were part divine, part human, then what does that make their mothers? Were they mere humans, chosen as vessels? Or did the union itself transform them into something beyond recognition, creatures neither fully human nor fully giant? Ancient traditions outside the Bible whisper unsettling possibilities. Some say the wives of giants became corrupted, changed by the very beings they were joined to. Others claim they too grew to abnormal size, birthing whole generations of female giants, brides who could stand beside their monstrous husbands. But why is this part of the story almost erased? Why does the Bible describe the giants but never tell us plainly who their wives were? Maybe because to understand the wives is to look into a part of human history most are not ready to face. And yet we must, because without them, the giant story is incomplete. Without them, we cannot understand how these beings multiplied, spread, and carved their shadow into human history. So in this chapter, we've laid the foundation. Genesis 6, the mystery of the sons of God and the daughters of men, and the silent role of the women who became the mothers of giants. But now, we must go deeper, because the real question isn't just who they were, but what they became.
If Genesis 6 leaves us with a haunting silence about the wives of giants, then the ancient writings outside of the Bible attempt to whisper the words that Scripture does not fully speak. One of the most striking voices is found in the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text not part of the Bible as we have it today, but widely known in the time of the apostles. Enoch tells the story of angels called watchers who descended upon the earth. They looked upon the daughters of men, and lust consumed them. These heavenly beings entered into unions with mortal women, teaching them strange arts, sorceries, and forbidden knowledge. And from these women were born the Nephilim, the giants, beings who devoured the earth and corrupted mankind. But here's the disturbing part. The Book of Enoch suggests that the women themselves were not untouched. By joining themselves to the Watchers, they became part of this corruption. They were not simply innocent brides, they were transformed by the union, reshaped by what they carried. Some traditions go even further. They claim that the women birthed not only male giants, but female ones, daughters of immense size, terrifying beauty, and monstrous strength. Wives fit for the giants, ensuring that their bloodline would not fade quickly from the earth. Pause for a moment and imagine it. A world not just of towering men, but of towering women. Giant women who stood as mothers, wives, and warriors. Women who could look down upon ordinary mortals with the same fearsome presence as their husbands. Is it possible that history has tried to erase them? After all, a story of male giants alone is already difficult to accept. But female giants? That's a truth too disturbing, too strange for the world to carry openly. Yet, the echoes remain. Ancient Mesopotamian myths speak of divine women, half goddess, half human, who bore children of frightening size. Greek mythology tells us of monstrous mothers like Gaia, who birthed the Titans, female beings as massive and terrifying as their sons. Even scattered Jewish and Christian traditions hint at the wives of giants being not mere women, but corrupted beings touched by heaven and earth. And then there's the chilling thought. If the wives of the giants were transformed, what became of their souls? Were they judged as humans or as something else? The Book of Enoch says the giants, once slain, became restless spirits, wandering the earth as demons. But what of their mothers? Were they condemned as well, or did their humanity save them from such a fate? The silence here is almost deafening. It's as though these women were intentionally written out of the narrative. their presence reduced to whispers and shadows. And perhaps that's the most disturbing truth of all, that the wives of the giants were erased because their story is too dangerous to tell. Think about it. The giants were said to corrupt everything they touched. They devoured the land, the animals, even human flesh. If the women who bore them also became corrupted, then their presence wasn't just part of the story. They were the story. The carriers of the Nephilim legacy, the ones who ensured the bloodline spread, the shadowy mothers of entire tribes that haunted Israel for generations. And yet, they remain nameless, faceless, a question mark in the margins of Scripture. But maybe that's exactly what makes them so mysterious. Their silence forces us to ask, were they victims, or were they willing participants in something darker than we can imagine?
The flood was supposed to end it all. According to Genesis, the corruption of the Nephilim, their violence, their domination of the earth, was one of the reasons God chose to send the waters. The giants were wiped out, their fathers, the fallen angels, were bound, and humanity began again through Noah and his family. But here is where the story takes a strange and unsettling turn, because the giants did not vanish completely. When Israel later approached the Promised Land, they were met with tribes that caused even the bravest men to tremble. The Anakim, the Rephaim, the Zamzummim. These names are scattered throughout the Old Testament like dark reminders of something ancient and unfinished. The spies whom Moses sent into Canaan came back terrified, saying, "We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Enoch come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." How could this be if the flood wiped the giants away? Some traditions suggest that the bloodline of giants survived through the women, the wives who bore them. Think about it. Noah's family was spared, but who were the wives of his sons? The Bible tells us their names, but almost nothing about their bloodlines. Could it be that fragments of the Nephilim's legacy slipped through, carried quietly in the veins of women? If so, then the wives of giants didn't just vanish in the flood. They walked out of it, hidden in plain sight, carrying secrets within their wombs. And as Israel battled its way through the land, these echoes of the giants' wives resurfaced in the towering Anakim, in the mighty Rephaim, and in terrifying figures like Og, king of Bashan, whose bed was said to be over 13 feet long. Now pause here, because Og's story adds another layer to this mystery. According to Jewish tradition, Og may have been a survivor of the pre-flood world. How could he survive? One legend claims he clung to the ark itself. Another suggests his bloodline endured through women, wives of giants whose corrupted seed lived on. This is where the story of the wives becomes almost ghost-like. They are never named, never described directly, but their fingerprints are everywhere. Every time the Israelites faced giants, they were facing the legacy of those unknown women. Every time a battle was fought against Rephaim or Anakim, it was another confrontation with the shadow of the wives. And then there's the figure of Goliath, towering, arrogant, fearless. But did you know Goliath wasn't alone? The Bible mentions other giants connected to him, even brothers. A clan of the tall descended from an ancient line. That line had to be preserved, and behind every preserved line, There are mothers, silent, hidden, but present. So here is the disturbing possibility. The wives of the giants may never have been completely erased. Their influence may have stretched across centuries, hidden in bloodlines, lurking in tribes, and whispering through the genealogies of enemies Israel faced again and again. But what if it goes even further? Some scholars argue that the giants' wives are not just a story of the past, but a warning. Jesus himself said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." If the days of Noah were marked by unions between divine beings and human women, then perhaps the silence about the wives isn't just about history, it's about prophecy, about something that may happen again. The women who carried giants were erased from the record, but their legacy haunts the pages of Scripture like shadows you can almost see, but never touch. Were they human, corrupted by forbidden union? Were they female giants, hidden from history because the truth would shake our understanding of the ancient world? Or were they something else, something too disturbing for the Bible to reveal outright? We may never know, but the silence itself tells us something. The story of the giants is not complete without their wives, and the mystery of the wives might be one of the Bible's most unsettling secrets. So, who were the wives of the giants? The truth is both simple and terrifying. We don't fully know. Scripture leaves them in silence. Ancient writings hint at their corruption, and legends whisper of female giants hidden in the shadows. Maybe they were unwilling victims, maybe they were transformed, or maybe, just maybe, they were giants themselves. Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. Without them, the story of the Nephilim could not exist. And that's what makes this mystery so haunting. The women are invisible in the text, yet their influence is carved into history. They are the silent mothers of giants, the forgotten keepers of a legacy that still unsettles us today. But hey, if you ever meet someone unusually tall at the supermarket, don't start asking if their great-great-grandmother was a Nephilim's wife. That's not the kind of icebreaker that wins you friends. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the giants' wives were ordinary human women, or do you believe there were female giants that history tried to erase? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love reading your theories. And if this mystery gave you chills, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Bible in Reflection, and hit the bell icon, because there are even deeper secrets in Scripture waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep searching, and never stop asking the questions the world is too afraid